it's time for our closing remarks on the CFO as an innovation leader. Encouraging and investing in innovation requires a different way of thinking, and a CFO can start by innovating within the finance function and lead the role of a steward when it comes to company wide innovation. And indeed, we are joined by a leader who believes in boldly going where no one has gone before. I'm talking about Siew, CFO, Airline Group of AirAsia. Our delegates are waiting to hear from you, ma'am, so I hand over to you.
Thank you so much. My name is Shan, and I head up the airline group in AirAsia. AirAsia, I do not think I need to then explain what it is. Aviation has been quite impacted during this time. But first of all, I would just like to record my thanks to the Economic Times for inviting me to close to what I consider a very successful sharing by all panelists. I would also like to close this summit with my fellow fraternities with some thought perspective from my perspective, how the CFO will change and move forward. The world as we know is different. Something unseen has caused a major disruption to the way of life. And just like that, eating in restaurants and taking a flight become a luxury, hugs and kisses are considered dangerous, and there's a new form of minority, the minority of people unvaccinated and unmasked. There's a push to a new era to do more with less. More productivity with less personnel, more efficiency with less restriction. And during this time, the CFO community was thrust to the limelight with everyone looking up to us and asked, where to? What now? How do we move forward? What is the right way to ensure sustainability in the future? So would I be so daring to say that this pandemic has changed the way people then perceive the role of the CFO in any organization, and therefore we are now more forefront than ever in digital innovation. So the individuals of helming the finance stewardship of the company have always been known to be gatekeepers. We are the steady hands that held the rocking boat. When the virus came and that no one foresaw, it has given, and strangely enough, this has given a bit more focus towards environmental, social, and governance. And there is a bit more concern over the risk assessment as well as sustainability. So where do we go from here as CFOs? Let's talk about digital innovation. And I think a lot of people have shared a lot of various products and how they have innovated their respective CFO functions. So the partnership of which the CFO can be part of this journey, the partnership with the Chief Technological Officer or Chief Digital Officer, so may have you. Would I be so daring to say, while in the past, there's always a CTO or a CDO that actually drives the digital innovation within the organization, and the rest of the team will play a devil advocate, including the CFOs. We question about the ROI return, and sometimes maybe this then hinders the progress forward. What I dare say that moving forward, maybe the culture of this CTOs or CDO should be removed. I believe there's somebody that in the past panelists that's called digital CFO. Maybe then the idea is to subsume within the culture of the organization that digitalization and innovation should be the core. It should be everyone's partnership, everyone's duty, and the return of investment should be less of a question, rather what is the vision we should be moving forward to the world that is transformed. So what virus has taught us is maybe not everything can be measured in dollar and cents. So if I were to give an example of AirAsia, in the past, we have always invested in self-check-in systems, self-backdrop system way before the presence of virus in our lives. Often this was criticized as lack of service on our part. But now service has taken a different form, whereby the focus is on safety, contactless journey. Did we foresee the virus? No, we did not. We just did what we thought was less of an ROI, but more of the future of traveling. So if we were to look back for finance, what should we do first? So the first time, financial sustenance is the forefront topic due to the prolonged impact of this endemic to the global economy. business users start to understand the importance of this decision making from the financial standpoint. Very often in the past or based traditionally, there are going to be some form of resistance whereby a lot of people talk about spending and less so much about cost. So from now, what we CFO should do is to forge greater partnerships because now money matters and it is no longer a responsibility on our own. I think it is then a joint responsibility. I think the way we should see is just like digitalization has now subsumed within the finance function, the understanding of finance should then be subsumed within everyone else's function. So how do we as CFO increase this responsibility towards all the business partners? I think the way everyone has said it, but I will summarize it, is we must make the data accessible, reliable, timely, and easy to read and use. And hence the focus on data analytics. It should not be the case whereby the traditional way of waiting to month end or calling up the finance department to ask for vendor statements or customer profiles or looking at the month end numbers and saying, hey, the profitability is not as we thought. So how must we enable that people then get on board with this data analytics with us is we will probably need to unmeddle all the mumbo jumbo of finance, make it in a right information made available to the right people at the right time. And I call this self-service. We should therefore in the forefront of our mind when we drive our finance team is to then drive them to analyze the data in such a way so that the product of the data is something that can be used in an instant in the fingertips of every one of the business user. So with this in mind, the investment in data analytics and security of data and a single source of truth and business intelligence tools become inevitable. If we as finance and we as CFO were to apply the traditional way of ROI to calculate the return on investment, I don't think any of this would make sense. But having said that, if you were to benefit the empowering of the entire organization of having information on our fingertips, I think that may be the greater value. So I will now shift my focus to talk about how we would think about the finance team and how we are going to run the finance team. Finance teams are generally hardworking individuals churning out data, working on efficiency of processing and dealing with the exceptions, but very rarely sitting side by side with the business personnel to discuss tactical or strategic matters. If we think about it, the finance team in this new norm will most likely be working from home. So the already secluded team that everyone has of finance, which is generally more introvert in nature, is going to be even more introvert. So I'm proposing that psychologically we need to transform. How do we transform? Maybe first step, we have to psychologically empower them. We should not be calling them accounts payable, accounts receivable. It seems to suggest that they are just transactional. If we want them to think about it being business partners, maybe payment specialists or payment business partners, something to that effect. Of course, this would have to come with upskilling of the teams to be bolder and to think out of the box. And obviously, there will be a bit of means to then upskill themselves for social skills, especially now that there is a lot of lack of human interaction. There are no side chats at the coffee, over the cup of coffee in the pantry or when we refill water, and therefore building connections becomes a bit more difficult. I dare say that maybe when we have Zoom meetings, while we meet once in a while, what actually builds connection is the sharing of details of life, big or small. Be it birthdays, be it weddings, be it birth of a new child. So I think that maybe some form of sharing in this sort can break the ice. Maybe a meeting can end with a game of bingo, or maybe it can start with some progressive homemade chef sharing pictures of their latest cooking. So some of us have experienced exodus of expert knowledge of people going back home to the home country and therefore leaving the organization. And I would say that a new thought leadership would emerge from this as to how we want to still keep the ability to serve a global market and without losing the touch point to the local customers. So, in my view, if I were to think about it from the finance structure point of view, we would then think about how this should be more data driven, more seamless in nature, and perhaps maybe we can consider finance team to be broken down into three parts. Maybe the transactional should we should all push to be taken over by robotics, RPA, tactical, where empowerment should be done against business teams hand in hand with the finance department. And the strategic can be then a shared burden of business heads and the CFO. So the focus would be how can we centralize and structure a normal work routine and drive data analytics. I also dare to suggest that when you talk about data analytics and moving all this data into a form and manner that can be understood and analyzed, and maybe in a dashboard form. And this can be cut into bite size. It need not be a huge project as its own. It can be cut into a bite size where milestones can be celebrated. It can be in such a way that maybe we can get this accelerated by cutting it into project base and outsourcing it to freelance personnel working specifically on getting data analytics on specific areas to work. So one thing is for sure, the life that all of us know will change. So I have left together some food for thought and hopefully a good summarization of what everyone has shared today. And we hope we meet in better times, we connect in better mode, and we build the relationship, and we will hope to emerge better and stronger after the pandemic. Back to you, Deepit.
Well, thank you so much, ma'am, for that wonderful leadership talk. All great things come to an end, and similarly, we conclude the finance track of the ET Global Digital Innovation Summit 2021. Once again, I'd like to thank our partners, our presenting partner, Intel Plus Oracle, co-presenting partner, JP Morgan, our co-powered by partner, Brilio and Connect, cybersecurity partner, Process IT Global, our gold partner, Clear from the makers of ClearTax, associate partner, HCL Technologies and Goldstone Technologies, knowledge partner, Deloitte. We also thank our startup partners, Credgenics, World FinTech, Satsure, Jal Technologies Prakriti, and Eclept 4E Labs. And once again, we are waiting for your posts. Our hashtag is ETGDI Summit. A big thank you to all our attendees, speakers, and panelists for their active participation. We always strive to bring you innovative content that provides great value to you. So your feedback on the event would help us in making the next edition bigger and better. So please spend a minute of your time to fill out the feedback form by clicking on the feedback tab. And to download your certificates of participation, click on digital certification. Well, with that, this is your host and anchor, Deepti Diwan, signing off. Do take good care of yourselves. Thank you so much.